Good morning, everyone. I call Committee of Supply Section C to order. We're meeting today to consider consideration of the estimates of the Ministry of Energy, Mines, and Low Carbon Innovation. I now recognize the Minister to move the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolved that a sum not exceeding $100,597,000 be granted to Her Majesty to defray the expenses of the Ministry of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation, Ministry operations to March 31st, 2022.
Okay, thank you, Minister. I believe we ended off last evening with the member from Kootenay East asking a question, but you were going to answer it today.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. And the question was about the Consumer Crisis Fund administered by BC Hydro. We had established that due to a ruling by the BC Utilities Commission, that program was required to come to an end at the end of this month. Just to answer the question about the Consumer Crisis Fund, the government is considering what options it might have. We fully understand the importance of the program and the deadline that's imminent.
I recognize the member for Kootenay East.
Thank you, Chair. So the BCUC and BC Hydro have both alluded to that the fund is not sustainable. The program, although the recipients of the fund was overwhelmingly supportive of it, that got the funding. But on the other hand, those that weren't participants in directly benefiting from the fund were opposed to it. A lot of people felt that the fund was an arbitrary tax that was not put out to anyone or any consultation. And so with the end of it coming up, I believe at the end of this month, May 31st, I think, and the minister has said that he's exploring options. I'm just wondering if the option of just canceling it in its entirety is something we can look forward to, I guess, in June.
Minister.
Thank you. This may be just a slight correction. I don't think it's that the fund is not sustainable. It is sustainable given the dollar value. It is not supported by a ruling from the BCUC, and so therefore they've ruled that it, in its present form, it can't continue. The government is considering its options. We recognize the need. I don't know whether it's from the sound of it, the member opposite is opposed to the fund, but we recognize the need and we'll consider what options we have prior to the expiry of the deadline of the fund.
Member.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm just trying to understand it a little bit. I'm not really well versed in this fund and how it can move forward if the BCUC and BC Hydro both say it's not supportive of the fund. I would like to know what the criteria was to lead the BCUC and BC Hydro to declare that it's non-supportive, other than it's non-sustainable. The benefits didn't outweigh the costs. The costs were much higher than what the benefits provided, from what I saw. So I guess the question is, what determination did BCUC and BC Hydro make to declare it non-supportive?
Minister.
Thank you. The BC Utilities Commission is a quasi-judicial tribunal that rules on the applicable law that relates to, particularly in this case, the Consumer Crisis Fund. On May 17th, 2021, they issued an order stating that because the program could not be justified on an economic or cost of service basis, there was insufficient evidence to justify the continuation of this CCF pilot program. The BCUC also determined it could not end the CCF rate rider without an application by BC Hydro, and directed BC Hydro to file an application to terminate the CCF rate rider within 10 days. And that's the note that appears on hydro bills.
Member.
Thank you, Chair. So the rate rider was originally, when the fund first came in, I believe was 25 cents, I believe, and then reduced to 13 cents a year later. Now the BCUC is saying to eliminate that rate rider all entirely, which would essentially extinguish the fund. So I'm not sure what options the government would have after that to keep its continuance of this fund. Maybe I'm misunderstanding this entirely. Am I to believe that government can keep the rate rider in place if the fund is eliminated?
I'm calling a brief recess while we work on some audio issues for the folks on Zoom. I'm going to call the Committee of Supply, Section C, back to order. Minister?
As we established, BC Hydro will stop taking new applications for the Consumer Crisis Fund after May 31st, 2021. In order for that program to continue, government support would be required either through direction, and that is a direction given to the BC Utilities Commission, which is within the powers of the government to do, or a change in legislation or government funding. So those are the three options.
Member?
All right, thank you, Chair, and thanks to the Minister. So I guess as of May 31st, ratepayers can be expected not to be paying that rate rider, as it'll be eliminated, other than if government wishes to pursue legislative changes to reintroduce something similar. Is that what I'm understanding?
Minister?
Yeah, as I said, there are three options for government action. One is a direction, which by regulation a direction can be given to the BCUC. Two, a change in legislation, or three, government funding. So there are those three options, and those are being actively considered by the government.
Member?
Thank you, Chair. Just on option one, then. I'm not sure how these things work. BCUC being an independent oversight provider or rate controller, is it government? Is it a government's ability to suggest to the BCUC to bring a program like this back in?
Minister?
Thank you. On matters that the government, in its judgment, considers to be significant or important policy matters, the government has the power to direct the BCUC to do something. So that's the power that would be used in option one, and I've mentioned the other two.
Member?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the answers. That makes it actually a little clearer for me now. I just wanted to jump into independent power producers for a second, if we can. The independent power producers are not mentioned at all in the Minister's mandate letter or in the service plan. Just would like to ask the Minister, what is the foreseeable future for independent power producers, contracts, energy purchasing agreements, the standing offer program, any of these types of programs, and participation with whether it be First Nation communities or non-First Nation communities, anyone for that matter that wants to produce power in BC. I think at one time, I'm not sure, and maybe the Minister can clarify on the statistics, but I believe at one time of all of BC Hydro's power, about 25% of it comes from independent power producers at a cost of about 28%. So fairly equitable. That may have changed since the last statistic that I read. But it seems like a really good program for all British Columbians to become independent and to be self-sufficient, actually, in British Columbia for our power generating needs. So I guess the question to the Minister is where we sit with IPP, standing offer programs, and things like that.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In recent years, BC Hydro has taken steps to reduce its costs and keep rates low, and that has included indefinitely suspending the standing offer program that the member mentioned and the micro standing offer program. When it comes to contracts with IPPs, BC Hydro is focused on keeping rates low for customers and has made no decisions at this time. BC Hydro has about 130 electricity purchase agreements with about 130 independent power producers. These producers generate about 25% of BC Hydro's electricity. About 40 of these EPAs will expire over the next 10 years, and another 30 will expire in the following 10 years. Some of the contracts are very long. I think some of them are up to 60 years long. Part of the integrated resource plan will consider how best to address these contract expirations. That plan will be filed with the BC Utilities Commission by December 31st, 2021.
Member.
Thank you, Chair. A little concerning. There's no priority given for continuing the standing offer program. Minister summarized about 130 EPAs that are out there currently right now, with about 70 of them expiring rather soon, I guess. I'm not too sure how long some of those contracts are. As the Minister said, some of them are quite long. The reason why some of these are long is that power producers need that security and that sustainability to make sure that their operations continue. They need, there's a lot of capital that's invested in these power producing plants. I'll make an example of one that's in my riding, the Minister probably knows well about, is the Skookumchuck pulp mill. Millions and millions of dollars to implement. I believe they had a 20-year EPA that just came due recently and was reduced. The contract was reduced, and actually the scope of practice on when they can actually plug back into the grid was reduced. I believe there's 3 or 4 months of the year that that power producer can't supply back to the grid, and that's during the freshet of the year when hydro rates are probably their cheapest. So I guess it's not profit, or it's not good for BC Hydro to purchase that hydro back at a more expensive rate than what they can produce it at, and I can understand that. Unfortunately, if these power producers aren't sustainable, if they don't have the funding or the energy purchasing agreements that match the infrastructure that they need to maintain, I believe the shutdown for that plant just happened last month, and I believe it had cost about $14 million or $12 million, something like that, just for the upkeep. It involves about 200 contractors to work on it. Creates a lot of jobs, but more importantly, what it does, Mr. Chair, is because it's a biofuel or a cogenerational plant, it takes scrap fiber and wood fiber from the surrounding areas to cause that energy, to create that energy and put it back into the grid, and they use it themselves to do their own operations with pulp and paper there. This biofuel that is out into around our forests and everything, that needs to be taken care of. So it really is a win-win for not only for the environment, but also for the sustainability of industry and jobs. With the elimination of the standing offer program, it also doesn't promote any autonomy within communities. I'll bring another example up. In my riding of Kootenay East, we have the Tanaka First Nation, great group of folks, a lot of good friends of mine are out there. They would love to have a solar project in place. They were ready to go with a plan, and they made application for the standing offer program to participate in producing their own power independently. Unfortunately, that was taken away and eliminated. So the independent power producing portion of energy production in BC is critical, like I said, to bring autonomy to some of these communities, whether they're Indigenous or non-Indigenous. I mean, there's other examples in the North Island where a lot of these communities run off of diesel, and they would love to have run-of-river or geothermal or any other type of alternative energy. And the Standing Offer program provided that, that room to participate. So the elimination of this program is critical, I believe, for BC being self-sufficient with their energy producing targets, I guess. Maybe the minister can explain why this isn't a priority for government and if there's a better way.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Perhaps we can begin with BC Hydro's current assessment of its situation and the availability of power to it. The projections are that BC Hydro has a surplus of power at least until 2030. So that is a consideration in deciding to whether or not to sign a new energy purchase agreements, and that was the reason for the suspension of the Standing Offer program. A little bit of background. As of April 1st, 2021, BC Hydro had 129 electricity purchase agreements with IPPs, represent about $46 billion in future energy purchase commitments. Prices for the energy from existing IPP agreements are significantly higher than the cost of generation from BC Hydro's heritage assets like WAC Bennett Dam, as well as projected domestic and export market forecasts. As noted in phase 1 of the comprehensive review of BC Hydro that was completed a year ago, the average cost of heritage generation is estimated to be about $33 a megawatt hour. In comparison, the cost of IPP energy is about $100 per megawatt hour. As part of phase 1 of the comprehensive review, the government commissioned a report on BC Hydro's power purchases from IPPs that found that BC Hydro purchased too much power from IPPs at too high a cost at the direction of the previous government. The report found the contracts signed with IPPs will cost BC Hydro customers over $16.2 billion annually, or $16.2 billion over 20 years, or $808 million annually. This is around $200 a year, or $4,000 over 20 years for the average residential consumer or customer. BC Hydro does not have any active programs for the procurement of new energy resources from IPPs. Other than EPA renewals, the only expected new agreements are for a small number of new First Nations energy projects. BC Hydro's forecast increases to its cost of energy are primarily driven by increasing IPP energy costs under existing agreements, the terms of which are fixed. BC Hydro will look at its future need for clean energy, including the role of EPAs, in the next integrated resource plan, which it will file with the BC Utilities Commission this year at the end of the year.
Member.
Thank you, Chair. So what I heard there, the cost of $36 or $33 per megawatt hour is what the production is right now with BC Hydro, I believe I heard, and as it compared to $100 megawatt hour for independent power producers, I think I heard. Just curiosity, with the new price tag on the Site C dam, what would the cost of megawatt hour be for producing electricity from Site C with the new $16 billion price tag?
Minister.
Thank the member for the question. At this point, and notwithstanding the final cost of Site C is not clear, but it is the number per megawatt hours projected to be much lower than the $100 per megawatt hour for the power generated by the IPPs.
Member.
Thank you, Chair. Much lower. I'm like to maybe I'm not sure if is it over the $33. Is it anywhere between 33 and 100? Is it over 50? It doesn't have to be bang on, but a rough approximation, just for my own information, would be appreciated. There's a lot of things here. I mean, nothing's very static when it comes to power production anywhere, or power consumption for that matter. Demands increase, they decrease, industries come, they go. That's why it's very important to have an integrated resource plan, which I'm not sure has been produced yet by BC Hydro to the BCUC, which is a very critical piece into establishing our rates for the future. And maybe that would be a question now. The minister has an integrated resource plan been filed. I think it's been since 2010 since we've seen our last IRP, and it's due, and I believe it was due the end of February, an IRP. And if that IRP has been tabled yet, because that determines what our rates will be for the future.
Given the hour, members, I think we will adjourn for lunch, and we'll get an answer from the minister after lunch. So I ask the minister to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Committee of Supply, Section C, reports progress on the estimates of the Ministry of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation, and asks leave to sit again.
Members, a vote is about to take place, and those participating remotely should prepare their voting cards. Members, the question is that the committee rise, report progress, and seek leave to sit again. Those in favor indicate aye. Aye. Those opposed indicate nay. Motion is carried. Thank you, members. This committee now stands adjourned.